Tech Nuggets, Microsoft Outlook, web and desktop version. I'm going to make a video about Outlook, both the desktop and the online version, because there seems to be some confusion regarding what can it do and what can it not do, and there are some slight differences. The overlap between the two clients is a good bit bigger than most people believe, but I was going to go over it a little bit to show what it can do and what it can't do. So Microsoft Outlook's primary functions are email, calendar, contacts, and to-do lists. And the focus of it really is on email. Calendar sort of rides on top of email in terms of sending invites to messages around or to appointments around and things like that. We use our contact list to do both calendaring and email. The to-do list is kind of a baby brother that some people use and some people don't. It doesn't get used a lot by most people I know, but some people really like it. The last one I added in parentheses here, there are some connectors into other Microsoft apps, most notably into Microsoft Teams, which I did a video on. So if you've watched the Microsoft Teams video, you'll probably see some of the same teams will show up in the bottom in some of the lists. And I'll talk about them just a little bit because Outlook will sort of stick its fingers into Teams. They're all Microsoft apps, so they all sort of live in the same ecosystem inside of Microsoft's cloud. For the most part, this is going to be a demo. There's not a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump, right into the demo. I should probably start off this demo by admitting up front that I am not a regular Outlook user. You'll occasionally see in the upper right corner here where it will nag at me that my email is forwarded off to my personal Gmail folder. I did that a number of years ago before we ever went to Outlook. And have sort of stayed in that ecosystem. I do use Outlook often enough for scheduling and things like that, that I'm fairly familiar with it. What we're looking at here is the web-based version of Outlook. So Outlook.com will redirect to this, and you can log in, and you can see along the left side here, we've got different things that have been favorited, and you can favorite them by just right-clicking and saying, remove from favorites or add to favorites or whatever you'd like, and it'll flip you to those things. You can see a list of emails. It says I'm all caught up because, ta-da, I don't have any. And then, of course, this would be the reading pane here on the right. To change these kinds of views, I've had a different number of questions from different people. You go into a little gear here at the top, and we can, change whatever the theme looks like. We can change dark mode. You can even change the display density if you like the font a little bit bigger. Newest message on the top of the bottom. The reading pane actually tends to be the one most people ask me about, where you can show it on the right or the top of the bottom. I tend to turn mine off. If I want to read an email, I'll click on it and open it and do that kind of thing. So I tend to leave mine that way. But you can change these things around as you like, and it will stay with the account. And down at the bottom, you can see there's a little groups thing. If we open that up, you'll see that I'm a member of a number of groups. I talked about Teams earlier. So this is where Teams sort of integrates into Outlook. We'll see that again in the desktop client. Down here at the bottom, though, is some of the more important things. It's how we switch from email to calendar to contacts to to-do lists. So we'll go on to calendar here, and it'll change its view. And now, of course, we can see, ta-da, more groups. And if those groups have calendars, it'll overlay them. If I check on those, you can, shrink it up. Oh, there's my forwarding message that it's all upset about. And you can see here, I've got one that was on here to make a Teams video, and I put it on there. If you want to create one, you just double click on the day, and it'll let you go in and add titles and rooms and all that kind of stuff. You can add invitees. So if I wanted to invite, a number of different people, I can put them in here and put my wife in and invite her to a meeting, and she'll show up, and it'll send her an invite asking her to come, and it will show that who's busy and who's not. So we can come over here, and this is kind of important when we look at who's busy and who's not. We can see everybody on my list is available. If I start moving it around, it'll say, oh no, one person, Jennifer, is not available. So we can look kind of obliquely at their calendar when I create an appointment to see who's busy and who's not. At 8 a.m. on the 17th, my wife was not busy. I can, of course, grab it and make it larger and not. And when we send it off, she'll be able to respond and say yes or no that she can come to the meeting or not. We can set up some appointment reminders, and if we have agenda items or attachments that we want to put in, we can do that kind of stuff. And there's a nice scheduling assistant if I've got a variety of people I need to work with. I want to add another attendee, and I want to add myself. Now, this is my staff account, and my staff account looks wide open, so It's not very busy. Apparently my work calendar on the 17th, we were on spring break, so nothing going on that day for me. So we can do that kind of stuff and say done, and we can send it off by hitting send. In my case, I'm going to hit discard because I don't need to set up an appointment in the past. When we come here to contacts, I went in and pre-created a contact. Bob Smith here shows up as a contact. And again, I'm nagged with forwarding. It will do it every time I change. I apologize. And Bob Smith's information here is bogus, but I've created a contact, and we can go in and edit the contact. And we can set pictures and forward notes, and we can add additional things to it if we need to, if Bob has additional things. And this information is stored all with Microsoft. So that information, when we pull up the desktop client, we should see very similar, although the interface won't look similar. The data will look similar. The nag messages will be the same. Isn't that great? And we'll go on to the to-do list here. As I said, I don't often personally use the to-do list, but you can set up your day. It's a daily planner. A lot of people really like daily planners. Oh, look at that. Yeah, it has all sorts of little nag messages that the first time you go through it, sometimes you have to say no to. And you can create different lists, things that are important in your day, and it'll pull it out of your calendar. It integrates all this kind of stuff together so that you can do that kind of stuff. And you have a task that also has a scheduled appointment to go with it. That's with 3 different contacts, and there's an email stream that goes with that. It'll link all that kind of stuff together. That's the joy of having all your email and data up there with Microsoft. All right, so this is the web client, and it does web client-y kind of stuff. Let's have a little look at the desktop client, which I've also set up here. Same account, so it should look relatively similar. You can see we get a number more buttons up here at the top, and if they disturb you that there's so many buttons, there's a little up arrow here, and we can get a much smaller version of that, which is a little easier to work with. And we can hit new mail, or the little pull down next to it, and we can add contacts. And you'll see we get a lot of the same things. We get sent items and deleted items. In this case, we clutter and unread mail. They give you a couple more options that didn't exist before. You'll also see we have students or groups down here, just like in Teams. My Teams integration is still there. We've got the reading pane and the non-reading pane. In a list of all my emails. There's a calendar view, and we go to the calendar view, and it's very similar. You can see all my Teams groups, and it's got the same calendar appointment on here. We double click again, and it'll let me create an appointment, excuse me, not a thing. And we can set up Skype meetings, very similar kind of setup, if we need to do that kind of stuff. There's a scheduling assistant in here if I need to add more people. Add my wife again. You can see she's busy at certain times and not at other times. We can, all the options that are here are the same options that are in the web client. There's a slightly different color. They're slightly different, buttons in different places, but they're really the same options. Sometimes you have to sit down and play with one or play with the other. And go to contacts. We can see I've got my one contact here from Bob Smith, and we can double click on Bob and it'll open him up. Some of the fields are a little easier to get at. You'll notice in the web interface, we didn't have they were all there. They just weren't all displayed. So we can go in and set these things. And again, we change it here. It'll go back into the web client, back and forth. A lot of this is kind of a dogs playing poker discussion. It's what do you like? What interface is most comfortable and works for you? And you got to kind of pick one. My to-do list, again, is still pretty blank. It does all the same kind of stuff. I can go in and create a new task, and it'll go on my to-do list and that kind of thing, and go on that. Now, the real question becomes, what's the difference? What can I do in desktop that I can't do in the online version? And there's an up and a down that goes with this. The web version, all you have to do is open a browser and go to it, and you're there. You're in email. There's no software to install. There's nothing to be done. You can do it on any machine. Go to the local public library and log in a private browser session and log in and get your email. Ta-da, there you go. And you can install Outlook and do that. Now, the kicker is you have to install it, which means you've got to go somewhere and get software if you want the desktop client. And there are ways to do that. I'm not going to go into that in the Tech Nugget, but it is a piece of software that has to be installed and updated and maintained and all that kind of stuff. And some people don't like to do that. So they'd rather just use the web interface with whatever its problems are. And that's great. That works really well. You got to kind of find the workflow that works for you. That's a pick and a choose. To my understanding, the major upside of running the FAT client is that you can go and, desktop client, you can go and add additional accounts. So if I wanted to add my Gmail account or a Hotmail account or 5 more Google accounts because I run 5 different email addresses through Google, I can add those in the desktop client. They'll manage all of those. They'll manage the contacts and the calendars and all that different kind of stuff. They'll manage all that in the desktop client, which is really great because that's kind of what desktop clients are supposed to be good at. The web client does not do that. So if you have need to manage multiple accounts in one place, the desktop client might be your best bet. You can install it, you can get it configured, it's all there in one place. Now remember, it's on a desktop client, so it's on that desktop. So it's not going to be on all your desktops, it's in one desktop. And if you need it set up in 2 places, you'll have to set up the desktop client twice, configure all the accounts twice. They're all pointing in the same web clients, but the clients have to be configured twice. There are some few things I'm told, I'm not a scheduling junkie, but I'm told that if you manage multiple calendars, as if you manage a calendar for another person, the desktop client does a much nicer job of managing somebody else's calendar. If you happen to manage, like I were to manage my boss's calendar and be able to put things on and off. I don't do that very often, but I'm told the desktop client works a little better. I understand every day the Outlook web client gets better and better at doing these things. Again, I've talked to some people that use it every day, and they tell me that the desktop client really is just a little nicer to use if you manage somebody else's calendar. If you don't manage somebody else's calendar, the web client may get everything done you need to do. I kind of recommend starting with the web client, and when you run into something you can't do, then look at the desktop client. There's no software to install with the web client. That's kind of the major bonus for that. All right, well, I hope you've enjoyed this overview of the Outlook desktop client and web client, and we'll see you for the next Tech Nugget.